Hello and welcome along to another episode of Tackling Sport Podcast. On the Monday episode, it's Daniel here, joined alongside me, as always, by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
And yeah, we're nearly there in the Euro predictions. We've got the Euro 2020 semi-finals, but more importantly, we've the Euro 2020 Tackling Sport final predictions. And delighted to welcome back Conor Swords, who's not only shown his form at club predictions, but also at international level as well.
Absolutely, Daniel. I'm like a bad smell. I'm like Hector Bellerin at Arsenal. You just can't quite get rid of me. So yeah, no, back again. I have to say, I'm shocked by the cowardice of Mike here. Like there was 3 boys here challenging me last week, and he sent Tim like my old friend Tim, like a lamb to the slaughter. But no, all jokes aside, it'll be good fun now. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully, please God, this is the time that England will finally get their exit pass.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So it would have been Mike Herlihy, but unfortunately Monday night's clash with Chemical Crokes GA training. And as a guy myself, no, well, I'll find out if he was at Crokes training. We'll check that. So, as Conor just mentioned, he has sent the quarterfinal defeated, beaten, but I didn't want the lads Morgan and James. They both got their second time, so I think you only right, Tim, that you get a shot at this. So Tim Stokes, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Well, very good to be back. I feel like your man Andy Tate there and got it on a technicality of a legend recommended. I feel a bit like him coming in. I did get a couple of messages in that end. But no, look, Denmark got into the Euro 92 on a technicality and they won. So I'm actually feeling all right. And Love Island finished 5 minutes ago, as I would know. So I can confirm he's not watching Love Island.
Absolutely, that's great stuff. So listen, yeah, we're going to get straight into it, lads. So obviously we've got 2 games here, so it's going to be a lot more tighter on the prediction side of things. But the first semi-final is Italy versus Spain. So over to you, Tim, on this one. Like, geez, where do you start with these 2 teams? Like, obviously England has taken the headlines on that side of the draw, but Spain getting through in a penalty shootout, and then Italy, of course, looking very well.
Yeah, I mean, I have Italy in our sweep now, so I'm happy enough with how they're going. I thought they were very, very, very comfortable there in their last game against Belgium. Although the scoreline was close enough, I thought they were in control, bar a very controversial penalty. I think they would have seen that out easily, about 3 or 4-0. Belgium weren't great, but I thought Italy were very solid, and like you can't write off Chiellini and Bonucci there at the back, especially Chiellini coming back there, so solid. The keeper as well, Donnarumma is so solid as well. They just look like they're not going to be conceding many goals. Spain, on the other hand, have Alvaro Morata, so it doesn't look like they'll be scoring many goals. So I can definitely see a clean sheet for Italy on this one. I would be leaning towards a 2-0 Italy win for this. I just think Spain were really poor against the Swiss. I thought they were blessed to get through on the penalties. They fell over the line there, and they're just missing a lot of firepower there, particularly up top. They look a little bit shaky at the back there, Laporte with the blunder. I suppose that happens when you're only playing 4 League Cup games a year. You're bound to kind of have a couple of shaky performances. So I'll go 2-0 Italy for this one. Nice and safe.
Nice and safe. Yeah, into you, Conor.
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of what Tim said, and we actually have another thing in common there. I actually have Italy in my sweepstakes as well.
Dear,
so so nice and safe. But no, Italy against Belgium was a good game. I thought looking at the match though, it was funny. I was watching with a friend of mine, and he's actually an AC Milan fan, so he watches a good bit of Serie A. And one thing he did point out to me during the game was, if the Italians face any adversity, just watch the level of performance offensively drop off. And it was very funny because I felt like they were in complete control of the game. And the second they conceded that penalty, and then they had to basically shut up the shop, they were like celebrating defensive actions in the 60th minute, and you're kind of thinking, come on lads, like there's a lot more work to be done here, which was the only concern I had. But I thought a lot of the Italy team looked really strong. I thought Jorginho again was silently one of the best players on the pitch. I was reading there, he got, I think it was 9 interceptions or nine ball possessions won back. It was like 3 interceptions, the most on the pitch. And then in terms of the tournament as a whole, he's the most passes completed. He's the second most interceptions and the second most ball, what would you say, like getting the ball back essentially. So he's had a fantastic tournament. And he's kind of, like you said, like almost like Busquets, which is kind of funny because he's playing there now, but he's kind of done that kind of a job. He's silently gone about his business and really kept the Italian team ticking over. The one thing I'm worried about with Spain, or with Italy, I should say, is that they're going to be missing Spinazzola now, who was, again, I thought just absolutely world class in that game. I couldn't believe he's 27. I think he is. Like, it's just, you kind of think with some of these players like Andrei Arshavin a few years ago, you're like, where was this guy?
Yeah,
like, the last 4 or 5 years, he was fantastic. I really think they're going to miss him. Emerson will come in, but not really going to offer you the same amount. And then on the Spain side, I read there today, like the XG of Gerard Moreno and Morata is like 7 goals, and they've scored 2. So that'll just kind of tell you everything you need to know about their clinical finishing in front of goal. Like I'd agree with Tim as well. Spain have been really shaky to me. How many own goals have they got?
I know.
Own goals is their top goal scorer, I think.
Yeah. It's insane, and that's kind of my concern with Spain. Like, same thing is like, yeah, they're scoring goals, but they're not. I'm, as you know, I'm a big man for the analytics, but their XG isn't really that high, and like they're not really, like, the chances they are creating, they're not putting it home as well. So you're kind of thinking like, what's going to happen here, like, or how are they going to actually get through that, like that high block of Italy? And then, yeah, I'd be leaning towards Italy myself, and I am kind of thinking in my head, I was going into it thinking I'd go 0-0 because I just think like Spain could easily shut up shop as well. But I'll go with a 1-0 Italy win, get the goal early, and then kind of like typical Italians, just kind of like dig in deep and defend it out. But I am a bit worried in terms of Italy's creativity. That's the only thing without Spinazzola on the flank.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you there, Conor. And the reason I think it'll be 2-0 is I think Spain will have to throw the kitchen sink at them.
Yeah.
And then they could pick them off on the break for 2-0. That'd be my thinking behind it. But yeah, creatively a little bit not brilliant. Insigne now is something else. Like,
he's fantastic, like, unbelievable, and that's his calling card as well. So it's kind of surprising when he goes to pass the first fella that they actually let him keep coming in and actually have the shot. The guy who actually impressed me the most, funny enough, and I feel like this is becoming a theme because it was the same in the Switzerland game. I was most impressed with Sommer in that game, and then in the Belgium game, I was actually most impressed with Jeremy Doku. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. And funny enough, I had in my head thinking, I was like, if I was Borussia Dortmund, this would be such a Borussia Dortmund sign to get him in to replace Jadon Sancho. Like, he's a young lad. I don't think he costs too much from Rennes. Rennes tend to take a fairly low fee when it comes to their talent. I know United are in for Camavinga now for 30. So like, I think he'd be a brilliant signing for someone like Dortmund. I thought out of everyone on the pitch, he won the penalty. He was driving them on. He was absolutely fantastic for them in that game.
Yeah, and Sean, over to you then. In terms of, I actually noticed there, Sean, you have the Russian jersey. So on the Andrei Arshavin topic, you've got the Russian jersey and representing. Do Spain have any chance here? Because I do think, like, on those XG numbers, like, Jesus, if Spain do click and Morata does fire, and like I was surprised he was taken off after 55 minutes, I must admit, in the game when they were 1-0 up as well. Do they have any sort of chance against this Italian defence, who, you know, I thought against Austria in that second half didn't look particularly strong, albeit they do overall have a very strong defence?
Yeah, and like the Morata one is mad because you would have thought Moreno coming in, I think he got 28 goals in La Liga, great form in the Europa League with Villarreal, and he'd that chance across the near post and it just blazed wide. And you know, you're wondering what is it with Spain, and I don't know, maybe is it a legacy issue, but you always felt with Spain that even if they didn't play with a striker or they only had one in their squad, or a David Villa or a Torres would step up. So it's just weird. Obviously, a lot of people, and Cesc Fabregas, who's been talking a lot, has been saying this is a Spanish team in transition. It's probably a tournament too early. They probably need another few years in the likes of Pedri and maybe Busquets and Jordi Alba start to, you know, move on and give other people up an opportunity maybe. But you do feel like maybe it is just a tournament too early for them, and maybe Italy would just have enough kind of, I suppose, street smartness and just kind of grind it out. But certainly, I mean, if they do create any level of chance against the Italians, which is a very hard thing to do anyway, you would imagine that line share possession, they've got to take a couple of those chances. And you've got to remember, if they do, you know, the Italians aren't necessarily the most prolific of scorers. You do feel like their team is quite streaky. They can get on a streak. They can score 3 or 4. But this Italian side and Donnarumma, I don't think conceded more than 1 goal. And all the goals this tournament really have been from set pieces or from the penalty spot like the other night. So the Italians are super strong at the back. And I'm not sure Spain have that prolific striker that's gonna bag one and potentially win at 1-0. So it does feel like Italy at the moment are maybe that little bit further on in the road. They're about 2 sides who you would say are probably not at the peak of their powers yet. You think maybe Italy another tournament or so with Mancini, with the likes of Spinazzola and Chiesa and Barella. you do feel like maybe they'll be even stronger, and that experience that they're getting from the likes of Bonucci and Chiellini is helping them. But
is there a danger just on that point, Sean, before lads come in, that it is a tournament too early, not just for Spain but Italy as well?
Yeah, I do think there is a potential for that. I mean, they're two sides who, weren't necessarily in people's lips for tournament winners. People would have gone with France and maybe Portugal or England, someone that little bit different. But these two teams have kind of snuck in under the radar. And after game week 1, they're in round 1 of games, they're in 2 different positions. I mean, Italy were the most impressive team in that round 1, and Spain were probably, of all the big teams, were probably the least impressive against Sweden. So it's been weird how they've evened themselves out, but I do think they're probably a player each away from winning it overall against England, and I do think maybe this game could take it out of both sides, and it could feel like their own final in a way. Obviously, 2 magnificent footballing countries, 2 teams with a lot of history, so it could feel like almost like a game too much, certainly for Italy to beat Belgium, to then beat Spain, and to then potentially have to beat England or Denmark. I mean, it would be a remarkable kind of journey, and considering that they went to extra time against Austria. But maybe this is where Mancini's kind of squad management might help him, because obviously he made that great decision in that round 3 game to kind of rest a few players. So
and give the goalkeeper a minute rest as well, I suppose. That's down to him.
But that is a big part of what, and I see Southgate doing as well, utilising the squad. And I did notice, I know we're not on England yet, but Southgate did say that he learned from the World Cup that you need to have these lads just in case the unthinkable happens and you do need to change formation midway through a game or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting what Sean was saying there, even about the extra time, because it only just clicked to me there that Spain have now done 2 extra times in a row with Croatia and now with Switzerland. So you kind of think in your head, you'd wonder like how that would wear on some of the legs, especially like some of the more like the guys like Azpilicueta and Jordi Alba who provide legs and provide width outward, but like playing all those minutes is going to be very, very tough.
On top of a very long season for Azpilicueta as well. I think Tuchel played him in nearly every match since he came in.
Yeah, he'd a lot of minutes for Chelsea and Jordi Alba for Barcelona as well. So and just with the small turnaround times, you would be worried about that. And then on top of that, I don't know how it came to my head, but I was thinking with Switzerland, like that Italy team, and I know you can't really go matchup to matchup, but that Italy team made Switzerland look like it was Switzerland that Italy got through 3-0 as well, wasn't it? Or am I imagining that?
You did in the tournament?
Yeah, in the groups.
No, that'd been Turkey, wasn't it? Turkey at the start of the year.
It was Turkey on the first game.
I think they beat Switzerland 3-0.
Oh, they beat Switzerland. Yeah, I don't know if
I think they beat them anyway. Yeah, I think it was 2. I think Locatelli got 2 goals, but like they made that look really handy, and then like Spain made an absolute meal of it and made it like incredibly tough on themselves, and like they should have put the game away. And I suppose like that's where you look at like, and obviously again Sommer made some fantastic saves, but again that's where you look at the clinical finishing versus that little bit that's missing for Spain for me. And then also you look at like the composure of the Italians when they're like against Belgium and they're up against it and they can really hold it out and see the game through, and they can get through that kind of period. And then you look at Spain and like they completely falter and they give it up and they make, they bring it into a lottery. And if the Swiss could have hit the penalties anywhere near as good as they did against France, they would have had a great chance of going through. And the penalty taken was shocking.
Horrendous.
From Swiss. Poor old Vargas.
It's refreshing to watch bad penalties, isn't it? Considering how good
I actually thought Akanji's one was the stupidest of all, because like he did the exact same thing he did against France. I was like watching him. I was like, I know where he's going. You know what I mean? It was like it was crazy. But another thing I was going to say is that I'm looking forward to in this game, which you don't usually say, is I can't wait to see the goalkeepers playing, because I actually think Simon and Donnarumma have been there's actually been a lot of good goalkeeping performances of this tournament, to be honest with you. They're two of the very best that I've seen in the tournament. Obviously, Donnarumma's got his big move to PSG now, and I thought he really showed like a different level of class and goals. Like he stopped Lukaku, De Bruyne. There were some serious shots coming in them that a lesser goalkeeper would let
you even
through.
Put Pickford in this goalkeeping category?
The three of us just had an intake of breath when you said that, Tim. We all kind of went like that. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is about him.
Yeah, it's so tough to give that guy praise. He just
the haircut is shocking. On a side note, it really like I've seen some bad ones, and that's right up there, I have to say. And to get back to Peter's punts here on the 4-1 for the England and Italy, I agree with them. They're done. Would be the tip,
So that 90-minute double there, Tim. Yeah, 4-1. You like Italy, England.
Yeah, I really would be. I suppose I just couldn't see them falling down to Denmark here. But will we get on to the predictions? Is it England time yet?
Yeah, it nearly is. But just maybe give the viewers how has the Paddy Power relationship gone in the last week since you were last on? I know it wasn't going great in the group stages.
Yeah, so just to finish up and on the predictions note as well. Obviously, we know I lost that one, so I was in all weekend. I was having a cup of tea with the Late Show kind of weekend. So yeah, not great. To just give you the shorts for now. I won't go into picky kind of Lukaku wing casts. Like, we'll just keep it at the basics. No, it hasn't been my best turn. To say the least. What about yourselves? Have we been having any luck?
Well, I said to Dan the last day, like, I'm an absolute fool, because I was on this podcast the last day and I actually said I take Italy to win 2-0 and Lukaku to score, and that's exactly what happened. And then, like, literally not a red cent on it myself, like, which is just the most typical thing ever. Like, it's always the ones you don't
always.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting there watching it and you're just kind of nearly wishing a draw or something in the 90th minute.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a sickening feeling. Yeah.
Well, Tim, listen,
the Hussey brothers.
Mixed bag. Well, Cian, who lives with me, he does a lot of bet builders, so we're always cheering on the corners, because he always has over 8.5 or 9.5 corners. So that always comes in. But the other three of the bets, I
was watching my brother wishing John Stones to get booked in the 87th minute. I was going, just the optimism in you, Ukraine haven't got into the England half, and he was so convinced that Stones is getting a yellow any minute now and all this. So
I did a bookings bet on Pepe in one of the Portugal games, and I was like, he's surely going to kick someone, and then he didn't. And then I think it was the game after they were playing Belgium, and he absolutely spangled some young fella. I don't know who it was, but he absolutely kicked through him, and I was like, you couldn't have done that, a week ago. And that was like, I think that was the only one of my bet builder I was missing. So it was absolutely with that. It's always
Tim. You like the 90-minute bet on England, then? How do you obviously think they'll get the job done? Is it going to be comfortable against a Denmark team who did beat them last year or the year before in the Nations League 1-0, I think?
Saw that. So England, like, they were my tip the last day I was on. They have been very, very reassuring. Like, unfortunately, it does look like it might be coming home. And it's one of them, like, they haven't actually been tested. Like, that Ukraine team, I'd love to see them going up against that Cabo League of Ireland team, because I don't think there'd be much in it, to be honest with you. Barzinchenko, there wasn't a whole lot there. Like, if you look at Jordan Henderson's goal, completely unmarked. The Kane got in very easy for the first one as well. I just thought, like, especially with their squad, they've got Grealish, Foden to come back, as Peter's punts is commenting here as well, and they've got Jadon Sancho look very impressive. Just I can see, like, Denmark, they have a few nifty enough players, like, especially at the back, Christensen, Kajar, Vestergaard, very tall, very organised back three or / back five that they're playing with Delaney and Højbjerg. Like, it is solid. I don't see there being too many goals in it. I'm going to go with 2-1 for England here. I think they'll come out strong and just have a little bit too much. Once they get the early goal, I can see England just sitting back. They've got their, as I call them, the pillars there in midfield, Calvin Phillips and Rice.
Those pillars, because those pillars are playing well for you, Tim, in fairness.
They are playing well, yeah. Like that Declan Rice image lifting the Euros is just creeping back in every now and again. And I actually saw that Paddy Power had a kind of a painting gone up today with Jack Grealish and Declan Rice in town. So that wants to be taken down very shortly. So
over to you, Conor.
Go with 2-1.
Yeah, over to you, Conor, on that. And yes, Peter Punts is on the Twitter there. So far, anyone who can get us on the Twitter as well. To think England have a fresh Phil Foden and Jack Grealish, it's a massive advantage. And to be fair to Gareth Southgate, despite his critics, you are amongst them, Conor. He has kind of got the squad rotation right that we've touched on.
Yeah, I mean the depth is absolutely outrageous. I do think this is just. Like now, I hope I'm right when I say this, but I think it's a mouthwatering game in terms of a tactical battle when you think of it, because I'm really interested to see will England go to a back five. I think they will, because Joachim Mæhle, to me, is another one who's almost silently been like one of the players of the tournament. If Denmark could win this thing, like that guy has just been an absolute standout. Like, it's struggled to think of a fullback, maybe outside of maybe Luke Shaw, who's more creative than this guy. Like, I mean, and that's what's fascinating to me. I just can't wait to see if England tried to kind of counteract him getting into the half spaces in behind Harry Maguire and in behind John Stones. I would think they probably would. I think they'll probably put a Kyle Walker to the right-hand side because he'd have the speed to kind of get up and down and maybe deal with the Joachim Mæhle. And then you look at the two holding players, and it's Delaney and Højbjerg kicking lumps out of people versus Rice and Phillips. So like it is a fascinating kind of clash in that way. But I'll tell you, when I was watching the Ukraine game, I tend to agree with Tim. I don't think I've seen a team roll over like that in a long, long time. I mean, it was just like pathetic from Ukraine. It was so easy for England. Now, I know like the depth of quality is far superior to what the Ukraine would be putting on the pitch, but I just thought it was far too easy. I mean, the two set-piece goals, I know Harry Maguire is a big old slab head, but I mean, you have to put up a better fight than that, like, you know, if you're defending the corner. And then Jordan Henderson, when was the last time you saw Jordan Henderson win a header from a fucking corner? Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought that was pathetic as well. And then I thought Kane played well, but I mean, it's a perfect game for Harry Kane against a team like that. Jadon Sancho played well, as team touched on, but standout player for me in that England team, without a shadow of a doubt, is Luke Shaw. He is absolutely phenomenal. Like, I just don't understand where this guy's been for the last 6 years. Like, I don't know what Mourinho
under Jose.
Yeah, what did he do to the poor guy? Because this Luke Shaw is fantastic. I love watching him play. Like, he presses high, he gets up and down. He's not just offensive; he can defend as well. He's, I think I saw there, like the only player that has more assists in a European Championship is Dave Beckham with 5. He's got 3 now. It's just like absolutely brilliant. Fantastic creativity from the left-hand side. As far as Denmark goes, it's funny, I was only thinking back to Sean talking about if Harry Maguire gets caught in a one-on-one. I actually was only watching the highlights. I couldn't tell if it was him or Stones, but a Ukraine fella did catch one of them napping, and it was just a one-on-one kind of chance, and they got through and got space and shot, and it went wide. But I noticed there that Poulsen is back for this game, which is kind of what I was on my knees praying for, because I think a player like him with the speed he provides is going to be a really interesting test for that backline. It is tough though. I mean, England, back to the XG, I suppose, but they have an XG conceded of 3 out of like whatever that is, 7 games, and they've conceded no goals. So I mean, the only real 2 clear-cut chances in my head, and maybe you guys could think of more, but is Werner and Muller in the Germany games, you know. But then again, I suppose you could look at that as that's the best opposition they've faced in this tournament so far. But I mean, I know, Dan, I've been coming on here bashing them, but you do have to eventually just kind of turn around and say, look, like they're actually having a fantastic tournament. Because whatever I want to say about Croatia and Czech Republic not being what they're as good as, you know, some of the other sides, they've given problems to other teams in England, kind of handled those games, you know, fairly well, beat Germany fairly well. So I mean, it's a tough one, but I'm still going to be a stubborn old git here and say that they're just not going to have enough in the semi-final. So I'm going to go with a Denmark 2-1 myself, because got to stick to your guns with this stuff. You have to stick to your guns with this stuff. I just think big occasion. Let's see. I mean, if they can do it, fair play to them. I will say now at this stage, I don't necessarily think it's the England of yesteryear, but at the same time, that Denmark team so galvanized, and whatever you want to say about them, yeah, they you know, they looked shaky in the first against. They took it to Belgium. In that game. And if it wasn't for an outstanding De Bruyne performance, we could have been sitting here saying, like, aside from that Finland game, you know. So I do rate the Denmark team. I think they're very good. I think they're striding at the moment. Like we talked about. I must have talked about him 2 or 3 times now in this podcast. But Damsgaard, fantastic player. Poulsen, fantastic player, and Joachim Mæhle. So I do think they have the quality. I think they've got enough to get in behind England. And I just have a sneaky feeling that this is going to be like they're just so overconfident, and I don't know if that's the players that can get misconstrued, because a lot of times it is their fans, it's their pundits. But I just have a sneaky feeling Denmark will get it done.
Jeez, yeah,
love you to be right there, Conor. Absolutely love you to be right. Yeah. Sean, would free up our Italy one for the final as well.
Exactly.
Sean, on the point of do you think Southgate will go back to a back 5 against Denmark? And if he does, does that mean Mason Mount drops out? Then is he the 10 that has to give way for a defender?
Yeah, I know. I'd struggle to see them go back for the 5 just based on Mason Mount, and if they do play it, maybe you could play it at Sterling on the right and Mount kind of in one of those front 3 positions which he has played so well for Chelsea at, and maybe have Luke Shaw higher up the pitch anyway. But I think one of the main reasons that he kind of played 5 at the back, and obviously it was against Germany to combat their wing backs, but also to get Trippier in the team for set pieces against Germany. And now that I think Mount's back, I don't think you automatically need Trippier in. So I think I'll go 4. What 4 he'll play? No, I don't think anyone knows Bargart's out. I mean, it's like Pep Roulette on fantasy football. You just don't know what 4 he's going to pick. But
yeah,
I do think if Denmark win, it would be, if England don't get through to the final, I mean, God, it could knock them back years and years and years, because this does feel different. This does feel different to every other tournament.
Do you think that's the end of Southgate, Sean, if they go out now?
No, I think he'll get another tournament. I think he will. I don't think there'll be too big a clamour. Most importantly from the players, because I think the players, now that everything's been put into play for them, it's not like other years.
Has that mistake in him?
Yeah, like I mean, you saw it in the game the other day when he came rushing out and he kind of sliced it.
4-0 up at the time as well. Like Jesus.
And the Danes are a great threat from set pieces themselves, and obviously, you know, we all know that the quality of the Danes, and they are quite I would say a streaky team. Like when they do play well, geez, they can play unbelievably well, and you've actually seen that in their Nation League results. We've seen them obviously against Ireland, seen them against Wales in this Euro. So I do think it's one of the better teams if you do want England not to win, that they could have faced Denmark. And it's been a mad tournament. I mean, we said on one of the previews, Dan, that I kind of half fancied Denmark purely on the fact that they were playing 3 games at home, and the 4 teams that have got to the semi-finals have all played their games at home. So it does feel like that's been a massive advantage for teams. And the Danes themselves haven't been overly tested in this kind of run, really. So I'm sure they'll be coming into this game full of confidence that they can go the distance. So it's one of them, but I think England will win. I think they will have enough. I'm not sure if it'll be 90 minutes. I think it could be a 1-1 or something, but it could
That'd
be
even better if they lost in penalties, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, I hope it's a great game. I hope it's a great game, because I do think as well, if you're Denmark, I mean, everyone's saying that football's coming home and the stars have aligned for England, but everything that's happened with Denmark, not just over this tournament, but over the last few years, their trajectory's been increasing. And it does obviously what happened with Christian Eriksen playing your games at home, the comeback, even that performance for the first 15-20 minutes against Belgium was off the charts with how good they were. They obviously couldn't keep up that intensity level, but you know, if you were Danish, you'd feel like now's your time. You're not going to get a better opportunity to win it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the story of 1992, and that will help them on, and you know, Kasper and Peter Schmeichel and all that, and the togetherness that they've brought. So it's not a case of England playing no hopers. I mean, they are playing a team that has had, certainly on their journey, that they're similar enough, and they'll feel like this is their time as well. So they're not just playing a kind of a run-of-the-mill team. So I do think we as Irish people should know the Danes' quality anyway, but they definitely feel like their squad has come on in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, people, even Delaney and Højbjerg in midfield, but definitely Damsgaard and Dolberg, they just feel like they have a lot more quality around the pitch that they didn't necessarily have a couple of years ago. Maybe they did have an Eriksen in his prime a little bit more, but
well, it'll make our case a bit better if Denmark did go on and win it or something. At least we could say, well, look who we've been losing to. In fairness, European champions,
and the Swiss as well. That cost us the Euros, though, Denmark and Swiss. Otherwise, we'd be there.
What are Georgia? Yeah. Where are Georgia?
Yeah,
I know. England will probably get them.
It does have, to me, like, I don't know, maybe I'm going crazy. I just feel like it has that feeling of the World Cup all over again. It's semi-final, streaking team. They played a team who wears yellow in the quarterfinal. I'm clutching at some straws, but
really clutching.
But the worst thing is, I started nodding there, going, "Yeah, that's tick." Move on. And then Tim said it. I thought about it. I mean, maybe we are close.
The one thing I would say is, I mean, if you were to say maybe there's one area that England aren't necessarily as experienced or as proven, is their 2 midfielders, and I do think, obviously we've seen Delaney and he's gone on to great things at Dortmund, and Højbjerg. that the Danes do have a little bit of grit in there as well. And Højbjerg's one of those players that can really get under someone's skin, Rice and Phillips. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Henderson being brought on early into the piece, certainly if they go 1-0 up. But because those two, they're quite street smart, and Delaney's obviously a quality ball player as well. So, you know, it's one of them that I'm sure Southgate won't be taken lightly, whatever about the English media, the English public. Obviously, the Danes, not a top tier country, if you like, but there's definitely is enough to trouble them and not give them an easy passage into the final. That being said, the Danes could roll over and it could be 3 or 4-0. But I do think the Danes will put up a strong fight, and Kasper Schmeichel has another performance like he did in the FA Cup final, because I'm not his biggest fan. I don't think he's as good a keeper as maybe a lot of people say, but if he produces a performance like he did in that FA Cup final, which you have to remember was one of the all-time great goalkeeping displays, I think there was 2 saves, I'd happily write a letter to Kasper Schmeichel and apologise for what happened in Dicey's that time as well. So hopefully the Danes go from the villains of Dicey's that night to the heroes of Wembley.
Well, like, go on. I was just going to ask you, Conor, are we talking ourselves into Denmark winning here? It just sounds like 4 hours.
I think, I'm trying to sell you the dream, but like I will say this: if Sean's right and he does play back 4, I'd be very worried if I was England, because the overload on that left side could be a lot to be dealing with. Like if Kyle Walker has to push up, because they have, as we've seen with Luke Shaw, they have taken like a lot of offense from like going down the wings, and if that happens, then they can produce an overload on the left hand side with Mela, and he can get in the box. Anything can happen then, like, and that's where the big danger will be if they can start really like stretching England and getting through on those gaps that'll be left. And that's why if I was Southgate, and I've criticised them for being too pragmatic and too safe, but I would go safe and I would play the back 5, because I just think it's too risky against this Denmark team. They're very good going forward. They gave Belgium a lot of trouble going forward, and like one thing they're not short of, and we know it from watching them, is goals. I think the only game they didn't score in that Finland game, and like and the Russia game they put up 4, I think it was, and then in the Wales game they put up 4. Like they really have a lot. They like this isn't me just trying to sell the dream. I'd say this if they're playing anyone. Like they really do have a lot about them going forward, and we do know that England do have those mistakes back there. I think it'll be a huge game, as Sean's kind of touched on there. This is Declan Rice's game. This is a massive game for Declan Rice, because this is where they're really, really going to need him covering and protecting and shielding that back line from what could be a disaster if they do let Mela and they do let Poulsen start getting in behind them.
Yeah, you have me halfway down to Paddy Power going for a Declan Rice red card and Denmark penalties.
I just looked at the odds there. The one thing I would say is England are going back to Wembley, where it did feel almost like they won the Euros last Monday, I think, against Germany, and it did feel like it was almost a massive mountain they climbed. Like they climbed Kilimanjaro before they climbed Everest. So they have to go back to that emotional roller coaster, if you like. And it is a semi-final, and you have to remember their record.
60,000 as well, Sean.
Yeah. So I mean, it is going to be one of. Yeah, had that. Yeah. So
90 for the final.
They are going to have to combat that as well, and. You got to remember, I mean, these English fans, they are quite fickle. And if they do feel like Southgate has gone safe and it's 50, 60 minutes and we haven't seen the Grealish, you know, you can imagine the tension inside that stadium. So there is that to consider. I mean, England are rightly favourites to win the whole thing now. They are rightly favourites. It would be a shock to see them certainly win. Or certainly go through anyway in 90 minutes, but I don't think it's going to be as easy a passage or a safe passage as many people think. And everything's gone right for England at the moment. There's none of that England team has made a massive mistake yet. No one's got a second yellow. No one's made a rash tackle. You could argue Phillips made one against Germany, or everything's gone their way. Yeah, that was it really, and he got away with it. So. Got away with it, yeah. If there is a mistake in them, or there is a bad tackle, or something rash happens, or they react to something, I mean, the Danish they're quite seasoned at that. They'll be well able to kind of get under the English skin. So I'm really looking forward to the game. Look, I think England.
It's a great one.
I think England are going to win, and they'll win the Euro.
Gareth Southgate missed a penalty in Euro '96 in the semi-finals. I'm actually sold, Conor. I'm going to head down tomorrow on my lunch break.
That's it. That'll be our short walk before the long walk.
Exactly.
Down to the bookies. I'd say this though, like the one thing I do worry about with Denmark when I look at it as well is they're very bad under crosses and under set pieces. They look really shaky under them. Like that ball that went into Schick was like that could have been dealt with. I know, and don't get me wrong, Patrick Schick took it very well, but could have been dealt with a lot better. I know I could be wrong on this. I feel like the Finland goal was a corner, was a set piece that was thrown in as well. So like I'd be worried. Like I look at Christensen as well, and like I know it's a back three, and he thrives in a back three, but he's a player that can be bullied. And I've seen him
weak, isn't he, physically?
Yeah, I've seen him a lot of times at Chelsea getting kind of physically dominated or physically bullied around by players. So I'd be worried. Like I hope on corners they put big Yannick Vestergaard on Harry Maguire because I don't want that big block getting defended by Christensen. So that would be my biggest concern with the Danish is just giving up chances from crosses. And obviously I feel like I'm blowing so much smoke up this lad's arse for United player, but my God, like Luke Shaw's deliveries have just been absolutely fantastic. So if he's whipping the ball in,
you don't
like
tell me, Conor.
You're convinced.
As a United fan, look, I had him called there, a few years ago. Obviously, the leg break and Louis van Gaal combination weren't great, and then Mourinho, kind of, I'd say he's watching him through his hands at the moment. It's just kind of sick. Yeah. But no contest between him and Ben Chilwell. Like he's definitely the best left back in England at the moment. And an interesting one actually. I was in the pub last weekend, kind of pre-knockout stage, will we say? And we're having a chat. Who, if you had to pick, would you sign for your club? Not playing in the Premier League, just based off the Euro so far. Who is there? Anyone that kind of jumps out?
Just in general.
I'd actually
just in general.
That's a very, very good one. There's been a few that I've been really impressed with. I like your man Locatelli a lot. I think he's been very, very good for Italy. There's a few for Italy. I like Nico Barella as well. I think he's brilliant. But honestly, the one I've been most impressed with that I didn't know about as much beforehand is it's probably between Mela and Spinazzola. Like I think the two of them, obviously Chelsea are kind of covered in those areas, so maybe they wouldn't be the ones for me to get. Maybe a Patrick Schick or somebody can put the ball in the net.
I was going to say Patrick Schick, Chiesa as well has been brilliant. Obviously, I watched a bit of Juventus to appreciate Ronaldo. I've decided I'm watching every Juve game, so I've known about him for a while. He's some player, but Schick is one now. I could definitely see. Getting a big move after this. He's only 25 as well, so still a bit of time. But he looks good.
Yourself there, Sean. Who will be the player for you to sign? Apart from Locatelli, because Arsenal are going to hopefully get him.
Yeah, no, definitely Locatelli would definitely be one because I think Arsenal certainly need a midfielder, but also he mightn't be as prolific maybe for the Premier League, but I do think Isak, the Swedish guy.
Way. I was going to say him. I just didn't remember his name. Yeah.
He's just signed a big bumper deal at Sociedad, so I don't think, but I'd love to see him in the Premier League because I think he'd be a real handful. And he'd probably be the one, but some of the names there, a lot of the Italian lads certainly. I'd love to see, and obviously you probably won't, but I would have loved to have seen Chiellini in the Premier League. I would have loved to see him at Arsenal. He did a trial at Arsenal years ago, I think, when he was younger.
Right around the same time as Zlatan, was it?
Yeah.
Doesn't do audition.
I think it was at I think Chiellini's so old. I think the trial was at Highbury, but it never quite worked. But I'd love to have seen him because I think he's just, even watching in this tournament, I think he's just sort of a link to that old Italian teams, even that you hear of back in the day as well. But I'd probably go Isak at Sociedad.
Your man's after coming into my head now as well. Like we were literally just talking about him the whole tournament, but Damsgaard would be brilliant. I'd love to see Damsgaard in the Premier League. Like he's 20 years old, and funny enough, when you were talking about Isaac, the fella who's getting no shine, and like it was one of the lads running the other day. He was like, "How has this lad got none of the headlines?" Forsberg was absolutely amazing for Sweden in that tournament. 4 goals, was it? And like in that semi-final, in the last 16 against Ukraine, he was the only lad who looked like he was really driving on to try and do something for them. And funny enough, the other one I'd be looking at, like, Jesus Christ, how has this guy never been bought? Is Sommer. Like I've seen him in every major tournament for Switzerland, and he's just playing for
around for years.
He is. He's just playing at Borussia and Mönchengladbach. I don't know what's going on there.
Like, if I close my eyes, I can nearly remember him in the World Cup 2002. I just feel like he was the keeper. Like he's one of them. It's like man Rustu for Turkey with the
with the Oaks under his arms.
I'm nearly expecting him to pop up or something. And when I saw Seb Larsson playing for Sweden, nearly looks younger than he did for Sunderland. He's one of those eternal players. Like he's going to be at the World Cup in 2026 or something. Just
there's more dust on Seb Larsson than there is that clarinet to him in your
more baggage anyway.
But even watching Barcelona matches, Tim, if a keeper ever went down injured, you always be like, they probably have Rusty on the bench. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. And Victor Valdez be another guy as well. Just been around for too long.
Emmett says Denzel Dumfries there, baller.
He was fantastic.
Very good.
In the tournament, it's been weird. It's rare you see a tournament where the fullbacks are the ones that are stealing the whole show. Like Zuber off Switzerland, Dumfries, Mele, Shaw. It actually has been. It's been a weird tournament in that regard. That and it just shows you the evolution of football too, where a lot of the creativity is now starting to actually come from your overloads on the flanks, and having a really solid cross. I was watching, I know I keep talking about, but I was just watching the goal that Denmark got the second one. That cross that your man Mele put in was just out of this world. Outside of the right foot. Oh my God, it was just perfect.
Is Jurgen Klopp to thank a lot for this? Not that I'd ever give him praise. Like, the way he has kind of Robertson and Alexander-Arnold there getting the width in there. I wonder is a lot of that down to him or his philosophy?
Well, the rare thing with that one is the fact that they don't even play a back five. That's a back four. And I suppose that speaks to how bloody good Virgil van Dijk is. And you kind of do think, as Emmett's talking about Dumfries there, just like how good that Dutch team could have actually been if he got to be a part of it. It is incredible to think that Liverpool have that much offensive, and it's not even like, it's not like Mo Salah's known for his tracking back. You know what I mean? So it just shows you how good Virgil van Dijk at covering those positions, and Jordan Henderson, to be fair, is as well. And actually, as Sean was touching on there earlier, I was thinking to myself, this might be a game where I don't know what his fitness is like, but this would be a game where I'd nearly consider starting Jordan Henderson against Denmark, because he's. The big Rice
and Phillips have just done so well in that partnership, I guess.
They have.
That won't happen, but as Sean says, and you're probably alluding to there, he probably will be that first sub on, or if either 1-0 up or even at 0-0, if they need to just extra time or whatever.
He completed the most passes in that game, in the Ukraine game, which is insane, because he only came on in the 56th minute. I think it's an element of his game that's seriously, I think, I get abuse. This is like my Granit Xhaka stuff here, Daniel, where I go hipster and people give me abuse. But I said it before, I think Jordan Henderson's passing range is really, really underrated in football. He's great at picking out people on the wings from deep. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised if he played, just because, like you said, they've been so good. But it might not necessarily be the worst decision in the world to put in an experienced head like that to deal with Højbjerg and Delaney, who've been around the block, to say the least.
It is going to be a proper midfield battle in there, absolutely. So James Mode's got a comment here. He's had a few comments now. This is the one I'm going to read out, if you can check the YouTube pages yourself.
Does he still think Sweden there in the tournament?
Yeah, well, geez, he had a mare there first, and I kept it in on the podcast as well. He's raging. Would you rather England win the Euros or Gers get relegated this season, Dan? Well, 100% England win the Euros. Unfortunately, Gers do come first. But the reason I brought this comment up, Tim, I think you'd be the best man to answer. How much are you willing to give away of your own life to get England not to win? Like, what are you willing to give up? Like, do you know what I mean? How far are you willing to go?
It'd be a tough question. Like another 8 years without United winning the league, or England to win the Euros.
There's a good one. That's the line, isn't it? 8.5.
If it was the World Cup, I would, I'd take the United option. But I would let England have the Euros with the World Up coming on in 11 months. And sweep it under the carpet. And on a side note, with the Gers, Dan, do you have personal photographers down there for all the matches and training? Because all I'm seeing on my Instagram feed is Gers. So I wonder how much training's actually going on.
And they're all posed as well. We get these they
are, very carefully staged. It takes one to know one. Yeah,
we've got a lot of jerseys. We new jerseys, you see, Tim. So we got to represent, you know what I mean. Like, are you coming down yourself?
I'll be down. I was on to Donald McHenry, just shaking off a couple of injuries now at the moment. But look, hoping to be down soon.
He gave for listeners. He gives that answer a lot. Yeah, Sean, you've kind of made your piece. I've made my piece in it today more when I said like, you know, England have been to 6 semi-finals, but the one, and Southgate's got 2, which is phenomenal. But the reason I brought that up, in 1966, obviously they were hosts. Essentially, they've hosted this tournament as well, so we have that to hang on to as well, I guess, Sean. That you know, if they do win it, all right, you haven't won it away from home. I'm clutching at a lot of straws here.
Yeah, really scraping the barrel here, Dan.
Yeah, we're running out of straws, Dan.
I know.
You know, it's another sad one I was reading there is actually Jordan Pickford has 7 clean sheets in a row now, and that's the only other goalkeeper to do that for England is Gordon Banks. How annoying is it that he's getting put in the same bracket as like their best ever keeper? It's outrageous. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what
likable face?
You know what I'd love to see?
Sorry, Sean, go on.
I'd love to see. I think everyone might have seen that when Diego Maradona died and Peter Shilton was going mad about, you know, his legacy and that he was a cheat and all this. I'd love to see something happen with Pickford where at the end of the tournament he's giving out about something. But no, it's mad. It's mad his clean sheet record, and that's something I do think if they need. Denmark need a fast start, and I do think they can kind of put England on the back foot and indeed the crowd. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. But I have made a lot of peace for myself recently. I mean, it's scary. Like, who was the most talked about player coming into this England tournament? And it was Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's not there.
Trent, yeah. And then even Phil Foden and Jack Grealish would be your top 3 in terms of talked about, wouldn't they?
Mm.
Yeah, and they haven't even needed anything like.
Yeah, so it's not.
Sorry, Sean. Sorry.
Sorry, just a delay there, Sean. Do you want to finish your point?
No, I was just saying it's a bit mad. Their squad range and their depth and how much some of these players, like you're talking about Luke Shaw, unbelievable, and you've got, you know, one of the most expensive left backs in the world sitting on the bench not playing. So their depth is unbelievable, and it is probably about time that they are going to win one sooner rather than later. So I have made peace with myself, but I would love to see the Danes kind of give back to us and give England a right good game and at least make it difficult for them. And I think even just for football itself, I think it does need a couple of good semi-finals, and I think that would really add to the final. And hopefully it's we get to have 3 more good games of football, because I know myself, even tonight when there was no football on, I mean, it's incredibly boring. There's nothing really to do. So hopefully,
Ireland, Carry, Wimbledon.
That's 3 there, Tim.
The TV guide in the bottom right corner there.
Yeah, there you go.
But I was going to say that Premier League's back in 6 weeks as well. Isn't that absolutely insane? Like I can't believe that. Like it actually is all coming like thick and fast. But as Sean says, you do be wondering like oh, what am I going to do without the match on? So like I'm really looking forward to the 2 games coming in there. But another one just to float it, just as, because I think this is mad. I hadn't even really thought. It was a bit of just like a whoa, what the hell? How did that happen? Like during the tournament, like everyone was talking about England's attack was going to be like their biggest strength and everything like that. And it's mental to think that their actual defensive acumen is what's basically got them this far into the tournament. I know they've been good in attack, but it's actually really been their organization and their defense that have been their strongest thing, which I just think is insane. Because if you had asked me before the tournament what I thought might let them down, it would be shaky mistakes. And like you said, the only one I've seen is basically Raheem Sterling giving Havertz a through ball, and that's not even anything really to do with the defender or anything like that. That's just sloppy play out wide. Like, so it is. I don't know where I was thinking of that, but it just hit me there the other day. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, it's actually been the defense that have put England into this position that they're in now, which is it's kind of mental. Yeah,
those statues in midfield are helping as well. Like they really are. Like they just they like safe Southgate strikes again, and like he has them very well organized. They are all very good players. Like they're United, City. I think there might even be a Chelsea lad kind of on the bench somewhere there, but even Tyrone Mings actually did all right for the couple of games. Which
I've been really surprised with Calvin Phillips, to be quite honest with you, because going into the tournament, I said I think he's Leeds like 3rd best England player. I would have had Bamford and Jack Harrison ahead of him as like better players for England, or like who I would have thought would have been better to have in an England team. So like I think it's because he's been injured a little bit during the year, but Jesus, he's really stood out to me in this tournament as like he's much better than I thought he was. And like I'd say Gareth Southgate probably owes Marco a bottle of wine, because he's got him in some shape. I mean, the guy can press for days. Like it's a real testament to the Leeds setup that like they've got like that England can get a player like that who can run those kilometers. It's crazy to see.
I would say the England fans would give Bamford one half chance before demanding that he was removed from the pitch. I can just imagine Bamford like scuffing a half chance at the edge of the box and then just say, get him off.
Yeah. Never work in this town again, kid. Exactly. I can totally see that. I actually feel bad for Calvert-Lewin, because he's a guy who I thought had a fantastic season at Everton. It's very tough. It's very tough if you're an England centre forward. You're just not going to get a sniff when because I mean, I find the media and I'm sure you lads are the same, but I find the media very funny, like when the absolute spin doctors, because you can just turn something into something that it's not. And like it was all about like, Harry Kane's only had one shot inside the box, and like it doesn't really fucking matter when you can see his track record. And then sure enough, 2 games later, he played crap against Germany, but he still got his goal. And then against Ukraine, he was one of the best players in the pitch. So like, exactly. It'll be very hard for any striker over the next 3-4 years to get anywhere near that team, as long as like glass ankles hold up.
Yeah, it's like being a halfback for the Dubs. Like you just, it's just not getting in at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's very true, lads. We're right at the time. Let's go to the tie break, which could easily come down to, especially if it's a draw in the England game. Tim, what's the score first minute going to be in the 2 semi-finals?
I'm going to stick with what I said the last time. I'm going to go with lucky number 7.
Well, Conor,
I'm going to go higher on this. Just again, like I think I did this in the last 16 as well. It's just because there's less games. I'll go with the 17th minute. Go 10 up.
17th minute. And is in one word, lads, is it coming home or
no?
Yes.
I will see you in Cabell Park 10 o'clock on Sunday for that long walk.
Get me boots ready.
And where's the finish line, or is it just an endless walk where we meander around the park? You don't even have a plan, Tim, do you know?
Endless walk. Could end up in Holt.
You do the word of goal, to be fair, Lads, thanks a million for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it, Tim and Conor.
No problem. Thank you.
Sean, thanks as always.
Cheers.
And lad, best of luck. Really hope you guys enjoy the Euro semi-finals. Tuesday, Wednesday nights can be great. We'll be back with a show on Thursday. And all I have to say is do give us a follow on social media at Tacton Sport. Thanks a million for coming on. And best of luck to England, Italy, Spain, and of course Denmark, most importantly. Good luck.